Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Redo the New Jersey Devils 2015-2016 season in Eastside Hockey Manager. I'm John Fisher of All About the Jersey, and unfortunately, this series is coming to an end today. The Devils, their extended season in the simulated world, is done. As you can see on the screen here, they did beat the Washington Capitals. The simulation did realize that the Washington Capitals were in the second round of the NHL playoffs, and realized that they could not succeed. Then the Devils took on the Tampa Bay Lightning. During the regular season, the Devils beat the Lightning in the season series 2-1. However, the Lightning were the best team in the Eastern Conference and decided to eventually I shouldn't say body. The last game was well, you know what? I'm going to show you the results and then you'll come to your own conclusions. But in any case, if we just take a quick step back here, remember that we ended the last video by highlighting that the Devils beat our hated rivals in epic fashion, and then decided to decisively beat the Capitals in Game 1. So Game 2 took place in a first set of a back-to-back, no less, that went into overtime. As you can see from the box score here, Adam Henrique and Mike Camilleri scored 2 power play goals, and it looked like the Devils were going to be on their way. However, TJ Oshie decided to turn up the juice, and this unit of Oshie, Ovechkin, and Backstrom just gave the Devils fits all series long. Oshie made the comeback with his 2 strikes, and then Alsner, after a fairly long sequence in the game view involving offsides and other things, Alsner potted in an overtime goal early in the first overtime to tie up the series. A quick look at the ratings show that the Devils some guys did well. Jelena has actually been very good in this series. Henrique did well. Elias didn't do so well, but you have some 6s, a 7 here from Schneider. But as you can see on the other side here, Oshie was a 10. Backstrom was a 10. Ovechkin was an 8. Alsner was a 9. When your top players are your top players, it's really hard to get a win. So taking it to overtime was impressive. But in the playoffs, it doesn't matter if it's close. You just have to get the result. Moving on, the next night at the Prudential Center, Lee Stempniak scores the first goal, strikes first. But as you can see here, this shot differential of 33-19 favored Washington, and Washington really did control the run of play here. Jay Beagle managed to pot home an equalizer in the second period, and then Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin got the go-ahead goal, and Marcus Johansson sealed the deal with an empty. Fewer good performances out of the Devils. Larson was a surprising 5. Brian O'Neill, who's been a mainstay of the bottom 6, according to AI John Hines, was a 5. But all the good results, 7s, 8s, almost all across the board for Washington, and they won this game, and deservedly so. This Wednesday, Game 4, Devils would take it back, tie up the series. Lucy with a power play goal, Camilleri with a power play goal, and then not just 1, but 2 empty netters, because the game seems to think that if you're down by 2 goals within the last 2 minutes, it's okay to still pull your goalie without possession necessarily. As you can see, it did not end well. So the Devils really won a game 2-1, but the score says 4-1. Ratings were in the Devils' favor. Schneider was excellent. Jelena was excellent. Camilleri was excellent. John Merrill was good. Now, you'll notice that you don't see John Moore's name here. Actually, 2 games ago, John Moore managed to get in. Well, he didn't get injured in Game 2. He got injured, I believe, in Game 3. And, yeah, he only played a minute 30, then he got injured. So David Schlemko had to go into the lineup and replace one of the Devils' leading scorers from this simulated season. So that was a big loss. So the Devils did respond very well in Game 4 in the absence of John Moore. And David Schlemko did put in at least a decent amount of work into it. But you had better performances out of Merrill and Green and Jelena to make up the difference. In Game 5, the Devils, went to overtime, as you can see. Andy Green got a very early goal. Yuri Lusti got a power play goal. And you can see the shots, 30-39. So this was a very high offensive, high-octane affair, but the Devils were not getting bodied in that regard. Ovechkin, of course, did score on the power play goal. And yes, he did score from the right of the goaltender. Backstrom was able to provide an equalizer early into the third period, which was a little disappointing because again, the Devils blew another lead, but it's all good because Mike Camilleri was able to pot home a power play goal in overtime. If we just quickly go to penalties here, It's weird. The system didn't actually record what penalty he scored to make it a power play. You can see Lata got a minor, but the Devils didn't score on that. And Henrique got a minor, but we don't know what the other minor was. I guess that was a glitch in the system. Nevertheless, the Devils, played very well. But we got some bad news here. Schlemko got injured during the game. So in an overtime situation, 70-plus minutes, the Devils played with 5 defensemen. Nevertheless, the other defensemen really did pick up their game. Merrill had a good game. Green had a great game. Larson was okay. Jolina was okay. Severson was okay. So that was all right. And the forwards were able to keep up with the offense and put enough pressure on Holtby and eventually get the game winner. Tom Wilson was absolutely horrid with a 3. This is the first of 2 threes you're going to see in this video, by the way. So if you see you remember 6 is about average. 6 is okay. Getting a 3 means you literally stunk on ice. So keep that in mind. Anyway, so the Devils were able to pull off, go up in the series with an overtime winner. And on Sunday, May 8th, the Devils were able to do it again, this time in the Prudential Center. Once again, the Devils built up a lead. Camilleri with a power play goal. John Moore returning from injury. So after Schlemko got injured in game 5, in game 6, Moore was able to come back. He was cleared for practice, and AI John Hines says, let's throw him back in lineup, and I said, good. AI John Hines has also said Milan Mihalik should not be in the lineup, to which I said, no, I'm sitting Sergei Kalinin or Toma Rutu or some other, bottom 6 guy so Mihalik can be on the ice, because Mihalik can actually play the game of hockey much better than those guys. So apologies for the little delay there, but the Devils were able to pull out the overtime win here. So even though Lusty was able to make it 3-1, Ovechkin with 2 power play goals. I mean, handing Washington 7 power plays is always a bad idea, and they made the Devils pay. But, and again in overtime, the returning John Moore became the hero with his 2nd goal of the night and sent the Capitals home. So, again, good results from a good number of the Devils. Yeah, some of the forwards were pretty crummy. Henrique, Zajac, Eliash, and O'Neill were all rather poor, but thankfully Jelena, Moore, and some of the other forwards were able to pick up the pace against the Capitals, which were not that bad in that game. Again, they got beaten in overtime, so it's not like they choked. They made the comeback. They made comebacks all throughout the series, but they were, in a couple of these games, they weren't able to complete the comeback, and therefore the Devils were able to pull out the win. And the Capitals get to go home, presumably in a simulated world where all their fans are wondering, we have all of this talent, we had good seasons, we made comebacks against the Devils. Why couldn't we seal the deal again? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a curse in DC. I don't know. Anyway, so beyond that, the Lightning became the next opponents. They dismantled their opponents fairly well. And the Devils, on the 13th, this did not go well at all. 5 goals. 2 of them are empty, so you could say this was legitimately a 2-3 loss. But Palmieri was able to get on the board. Camilleri was getting on the board, but Tampa Bay just was in control for most of this game. Outshot the Devils by 35-28. Not too bad, but Tampa Bay never really lost control here. As you can see on the Devils side here, Green wasn't so good. Moore wasn't so good. Lusty wasn't so good. Zajac and Josefson weren't so good. Whereas on the other side here, nearly, you don't see any 5s. You see a handful of 6s, and everybody else is a 7 to a 10. Tyler Johnson was just, fascinating on the ice. He was on the line with Alex Tanguay and I think Nikita Kucherov for most of the series, and that gave the Devils issues all series long. And unfortunately, unlike the Capitals one, the Devils never really had an answer for them. So the Devils dropped that game, and then the second game in Tampa, Nemestikov gets on the board. Stamkos on a power play breakaway, if I recall correctly. I don't feel like going back and checking. But that was just disheartening. And then even though after Camilleri scores, a little bit later, Stamkos... Oh, this one was the breakaway where Stamkos made it 3-1. Palmieri gets a late one to make it interesting late. But again, you're outshot by 10. The ratings, pretty much tell a lot of the story of this game. A couple good ratings on the Devil side, better than Game 1, but all the better ratings were on the Tampa side. And Tyler Ennis was fantastic. Strawman was fantastic. Hedman and Garrison were fantastic. Bishop was performing at a level at Corey Schneider's level in the playoffs, so, that's just going to be how it goes. Fortunately, the Devils were able to pull out a W against the Lightning in Newark. Drouin and Johnson put up goals, but Mihalik, who thankfully, I keep putting into the lineup, was able to put in a pretty big goal to get the Devils on the board, and Henrique scored a power play goal to tie it up. And this one went late. You see 121 minutes here. That's literally just a minute and 4 seconds into the fourth overtime. The Devils played and Tampa played 2 games in one night. Shots were 60-45 in favor of New Jersey, so the Devils actually played rather well in this game. The power play, they scored that big power play goal in the third period, but for the most part they went 1 for 9, which is a little disappointing. That being said, the Devils were able to pull out the W, and Palmieri was able to make the series a series. Schneider was absolutely fantastic. Presumably due to the number of shots allowed, some of the defensemen, suffered, like, Merrill. But other guys were actually pretty good, like Jelena and Green and Severson. But you see a 4 from AAtJ. Stempniak was a 5. Zajac was a 5. And ultimately, this was going to be the Devils' undoing in this series, where they just had some of their better players, or players in a prominent position, just not play all that well. And other guys cannot always pick up after them, especially in a tight scoring, playoff series. On the Lightning side, again, you see quite a few good ratings, but you do see some poorer ratings out of Tanguay and Paquette and others. So the Devils were able to get a win, which is good. Then, unfortunately, the Devils, they played a fairly even game, but the scoring was in Tampa's favor. Callahan, Ennis, and Ennis again with an empty. Stempniak gave the team some hope in the third period with a power play goal. But again, 1 for 7 on the power play. Just wasn't going to happen. And the Devils just didn't play they played a decent-ish game, but the Lightning were just better as a whole unit, and they got the W. So they went up in the series. Go back to Tampa. The Devils were able to beat the Devils in Tampa. And again, they did it in overtime in a tightly checking affair. Again, power plays were even. Tyler Johnson gets one. Mike Camilleri gets one fairly late in the game to force overtime. And then Josefsson was able to pop one in and become the hero of the night. He didn't even get a star of the game for that. Schneider and Moore did, however. That being said, the Devils looked like they played a much better game than the Lightning. It appeared that they deserved to win this one, so they did. And then, yeah, this is not a misprint. You know how I said, I couldn't have made up a 6th overtime winning game to beat our hated rivals? I'm guessing the Sims saw the Devils beat the Capitals in 2 straight overtime games and said, I think reality needs to hit the Devils hard in the face here, and 9-2 is a pretty good way to do so. The Lightning just dominated the first period. They actually sent Schneider packing. Like, for the first time between regular season and the playoffs, Schneider was replaced by Keith Kincaid. And the ratings, this is the second 3 you'll see here, and unfortunately it came to Schneider, who gave up 5 goals in that first period on 13 shots. I mean, his save percentage in the playoffs was 94.6. It actually ended in the playoffs at 93.5. That's how big this one game was. And Keith Kincaid came in and just wasn't that much better. He gave up 4 goals on 17 shots. And as you can see down the lineup, a couple 7s, and you even get an 8 out of Stefan Matteau for some inexplicable reason. But lots of 5s and lots of just meh games, whereas on the other side, everybody was good. I mean, Alex Kioran could have been a little better, but everybody. Tyler Johnson was good. Ennis got a hat trick. Palat had 5 points. I mean, the Lightning basically just said, we going to the Stanley Cup Finals, you going home, New Jersey, and so it went. So, unfortunately, the New Jersey Devils' Cinderella run in this simulation ended with the carriage turning into a pretty nasty pumpkin. I guess that's how the metaphor would go. Just to look at some statistics. So, here are the playoff scoring by the Devils. Eric Jelena actually led in scoring with 14 points. He was just involved in a lot of these power play goals, lots of assists, lots of secondaries. In terms of goal scoring, Mike Camilleri stayed healthy and was fantastic. Well, let me rephrase that. He started off not on the ice, but the fact that in 12 games he put up 11 points with 8 goals, you can see the average rating here, 7.5. He was absolutely fantastic. If only he was healthier earlier, and maybe that Ranger series doesn't go to 7 games and doesn't go to 6 overtimes. But Yuri Lusty was very good. Not as dominant as his regular season performance, but very good nonetheless. Adam Henrique showed up to play a little bit better. Lee Stempniak was a solid hand and actually took a lot of shots. Kyle Palmieri eventually became the shooting leader, and he was a little more productive as well. AAtJ didn't chip in as much as he did in the regular season. Zajac got 7 assists, but no goals. Pretty sad. Severson got 8 assists. Just to look at average rating, obviously Corey Schneider was the best. Camilleri was also very good, and when you shoot 21%, I guess you're going to be good as a forward. But you can see, a couple 7 averages, high 6s, which are good. You see Mahalik, Palmieri, Lusty, Palmieri was much better. Moore was very good. Severson was a surprise improvement as well. It was good to see him be a regular contributor after, kind of a meh regular season. And Reed Boucher, Adam Henrique, Stephane Matteau, they had their good nights as well. And other guys, AI John Hines kept mixing up a lot of these lower guys here. Yosefson, Rutu, O'Neal, Kalinin, Sislo didn't get in. And Eliash actually got scratched a couple times. So maybe the Devils could have used some stronger bottom six players and maybe some a better defenseman here or two there. But nevertheless, if Zajac was a better player in the sim and Eliash wasn't, 39 and being simulated perfectly for that, the Devils, I think, maybe could have kept going further. Of course, we can't say this is realistic because Corey Schneider played literally all the games in just about in all the playoffs and in almost the entire regular season. So I did sim all the way to the end of the playoffs, and the San Jose Sharks did beat this Tampa Bay Lightning. So again, this is not a perfect sim. San Jose took care of business. Amazingly, in games where the road team won the first... Actually, no, I take that back. I misread this completely. The road team did pretty well, but not dominant as I originally thought. But the Sharks took care of business with solid performances in Game 5 and Game 6 to down the Lightning. If we take a quick look at the playoff tree, again, the Devils did, way better than I think anybody would have expected. I was surprised they made the playoffs. I'm surprised Corey Schneider played 79 games. And the fact that the Devils won 2 rounds and were able to get bounced, even with the 9-2 campaign-ending loss, that was big. I think this was largely a success. The board is completely delighted with how the performance was. And the funny thing is that we didn't really do all that much. We called up Reed Boucher. We sent down Jordan Tutu and Steven Gianta. We called up Mike Sislo. Brian O'Neill came later. Milan Mahalik was the one trade, and that was pretty much it. We got very lucky with injuries. Corey Schneider was literally the man all season long and pretty much all playoffs long. And, the only guys who were better than Schneider in the postseason, if I, just take a quick look at the playoff stats. Yeah, Martin Jones, the guy who, won the Stanley Cup. As you can see, his record here is 15-2. San Jose lost all of 2 games, in this crazy run to the playoffs. So congratulations to AI Peter DeBoer and Doug Wilson and so forth for taking care of business. But I think the Devils going all the way was a big success. So anyway, so that's pretty much it for the series. Trading, the game will continue on. You can sim this as long as you really want to. The salary cap won't change. It's going to be set at 71.4. And obviously over time players will get older. You'll get regenerated players. All of a sudden you'll start seeing weird combinations of real life player names with fake names like, I don't know, like Ted Crosby or, Steven Ovechkin or something like that, because that's how these games tend to go. But, trades, you got an entry draft coming up where somehow Jacob Chitrin is now your number 1 consensus player, and an award ceremony at the end, and then followed by free agency. The last thing I really want to show off, because there was never really an opportunity to do this, is let's try to re-sign a player. Jakob Josefson. It's very easy. Click on the player, you click on offer new contract, and you can go really deep in terms of what type of contract you want. Do you want to do how long, how many terms, and it'll keep adding things as necessary. He just wants a 1-year deal with minimal upgrade. We could add bonuses, except you really can't. These are grayed out because he's not old enough. We can give him a 2-way or a no-trade deal if we really want to. And there are rules. It's going to depend on league. But this is fine. We'll just quickly offer to him, done and dusted. And then as time passes, we'll get an email saying he accepts or he doesn't, or he'll make a counteroffer. So very easy to sign players. Of course, the hard part is trying to find out who to sign. So again, this is the end of the series. I'm pretty glad we went through this. It was new content for the site. I was pretty happy with all the suggestions made by all the people who made suggestions. I'm sorry that they didn't go through. I thought, I was hopeful that a couple of them would make for an interesting lineup, see what happens. But at the end of the day, I just want to highlight that, hockey simulators can be fun. They can be engrossing. They can be dramatic. They can really draw you in. I'll be honest with you. During this playoff run, I was pumping my fist when, Jakob Josefson scores that goal, keep the series alive against Tampa, or, you get that, epic overtime win. You start jumping up and doing a jig and, bumping your fists like you're at DJ's at Belmar. It's surprising how much you can get into these types of games. So if you haven't, if you're thinking about it, again, it's not that expensive on Steam. Give it a run. See give it a try. I think you'll like it. And if you don't like the NHL, you want to do the junior leagues, you want to do the AAtJ, you want to do the ECHL, you want to do a European league, you want to do the English league because for some reason the English league is incredibly detailed in this game. You can have these options. You don't have to just be an NHL guy. Or if you want to see, hey, can I do something different with the Devils and see what happens? There you go. So this was a whole lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if we'll do it again next year, but maybe we will, maybe we won't. But again, thank you all for your suggestions. Thank you for watching all of these videos. Thank you for listening, and thank you for reading all about the jersey. Job done.